Let's discuss a little bit about the architecture of SAP. When I mean the architecture, we're not really going to do the architecture at a very technical level. It's going to be at a very high level, but just only enough to understand what's really going on when you log in and do your transactions, and what would happen probably when you would have to deal with some optimization issues. We'll talk about some examples. Let's say this is me. I am logging into the GUI. Let's take this example, GUI example. Right. So let me log into the GUI. So I select my server, click connect, and I get this screen. And first thing that I do is enter my user ID, hit OK, and I get this screen. Okay, let's stop here and try and analyze what just happened. So in the GUI, we fired it up and then we entered the user ID and password. But before even we enter the user ID and password, the system has already communicated with the server and gave us the login screen. And what kind of communication is that? This GUI is on the client's end, meaning it's on the PC, it's on a Mac, or it's some kind of a front end, like something that the user interacts with. And as soon as I log in or try and connect to the server, the request, let me change the color. The request is sent to the server. The server could be residing anywhere. The server could be residing in US, the server could be residing in Canada, it could be anywhere. In fact, companies all over the world could have one server in the United States, and all the users in Singapore, Japan, Russia, India, or Brazil could all be connected to the same server as long as they're on the same net. Now, as soon as I fire up the GUI, a communication is happening with the server. And what's a server? A server is a big piece of hardware, right? It's like a super turbo version of your desktop. In fact, it need not be just one. It can be more than one, which we're going to see in a minute. So this is the hardware. It's a computer. And let's say it's a computer, right? It's a computer that takes in this request, analyzes it, and responds to it. So let's say the response is in red. Okay, so the input or the signal that goes to the server is in green and the response is in red. Server is responding and I get the login screen, right? So I get the login screen like this. I get a user ID and a password and hit enter, and as soon as I hit enter, somebody has to validate it, right? So again, it goes to the server, a request goes to the server, and the server responds with a response saying yes, you're okay to go through, or probably not if I enter the wrong password or use a wrong user ID. Okay, now this is with the GUI. GUI is like a dedicated piece of software, but it's not just the GUI. You can use for example, you can use a browser. A user can use a browser. This need not be a GUI. It's called the web GUI, which is a fancy word for accessing SAP through the browser, and this is your browser. And you can use the browser to connect to the server. Let's connect to the server, and the server responds with some kind of a response, which could be a result of a login, or which could be a result of a sales order being saved, or whatever action that the server needs to take. So there are a couple of things that are happening here. First thing being, all the processing is happening on the server. It's not happening on the client. The client meaning, if I want to divide all this stuff into layers, this is my client layer, client, and this is the server. Okay, so it's also called the client server architecture, where the client is the GUI or the web GUI or any other form of front end that the user interacts with, and the server is where all the processing is happening. So the first point here is the server is the place where all the processing happens. The second thing is the communication between client and server follows different kinds of protocols. Now, if you don't know what a protocol is, that's fine. Over here, it uses a language. The language, you can talk of protocol as a language. The communication between this dedicated SAP GUI and the server is called CPIC, and between the browser and the server is HTTP. Okay, if you don't understand that, that's fine. It's no big deal. Second thing is the protocol. Uses variety of protocols, CPIC or HTTP. These are the common protocols used to communicate with the server.